Eliza Bournay here at RWA talking to Megan Hart about her new book, Collide. So thank you so much, Megan, for
Thank you for having me.
talking to me and talking to BookPage.
I'm thrilled.
First, I was hoping you could just kind of tell our readers about the book, sort of the plot. It's this woman M kind of traveling back in time, and
Yes, the plot of Collide is basically the woman named, her name is Emmeline, she goes by M, and she has experienced her whole life since the age of 6 when she had a playground accident that caused some brain injury. She's experienced what are called fugues, which aren't quite hallucinations, they're not quite seizures, they've never really been able to diagnose what the problem is. And so as an adult, she has been what they consider seizure-free for over a year, which means she's allowed to drive, and so she's been able to move away from home for the first time, which she does. And when she does that, she has a random encounter with a man.
a sexy
Imagine
man.
that. And she's really struck by him, and there's something about him that just sort of turns her inside out. And she can't get enough information about him. She wants to learn as much as she can about him, and she discovers that in the 1970s he was a semi-famous star of art films. So there's a lot of information on the internet, and so she sort of stalks him a little bit on the internet, even though she knows him in real life. And as this happens, she starts to have very vivid, she has a recurrence of the fugues, very vivid hallucinations starring him and herself in a multitude of intimate situations.
Yes.
I'm not sure how graphic I'm allowed to be, but they begin in these recurring hallucinations, they begin a love affair. And so she's having this going on while in the present time he basically ignores her and doesn't want to have anything to do with her, and she's, but I love you.
Well, I'll just go ahead and start with the hard-hitting questions here about love scenes.
Okay.
You know, some are good, some love scenes are better than others, but these are good. And
Yes, it would have been very awkward if you had said they were bad.
and I was just wondering if you could speak to what makes a good love scene. You know, is it the fantasy element? Is it the pacing? Is it, you know, something that feels realistic? Or
Well, for me personally, I think the best love scenes are the ones that push your buttons, and everybody has different buttons, everybody has different triggers, and so a really good love scene may work wonderfully for one person and not for another, but I think what I try to go for is realism. I try to make the love scenes realistic, but also really emotionally driven, so even if the characters aren't in love, there's still a lot of emotional response to what's going on. So I think a really great love scene is one that hits you here, and it hits you here, and not just other places.
well, in writing a book, what scenes, and not necessarily only love scenes, but in the whole book, what scenes are the most fun for you to write and the most challenging?
I really like the ones that make me cry. I really like to write things that move me emotionally, so humor is something that's subtle and it can be very hard to do, although I have to say that in writing Collide, I laughed so hard and so often about a lot of the dialogue, and really, really loved writing this book for that reason. But I am a sucker for the sob scenes, the ones that just break you open and rip you apart, and I'm just sobbing and sobbing as I write it and then reread it.
Well, I was wondering if you have ever, if you could kind of have an M fugue experience, and if you were, you know, traveling back to,
wouldn't that be awesome?
if there was a movie star, or a character from the book, you know, who would you like to encounter?
Oh my
In
gosh.
the past.
Oh, well, the truth is that the reason I wrote this book is because it came directly from my desire to go back in time and have a mad, passionate encounter with
A love scene,
a
if
certain
you will.
person. I'm not sure if I want to say who it is.
Okay. Well, we can leave something to the reader's imagination.
I prefer not to say who it is because I don't want anybody to come into reading the book with a preconceived notion about who it was based on. Although it's not hard to figure out if you follow my blog or anything like that, but I've had different people say, I think he looks like Paul Newman or Robert Redford. Hey! Yes, if that's what works for you.
Well, What are you working on next? I know you've written in a variety of romantic subgenres, and
what I'm working on next, the next project that I have due will be another erotic fiction novel from Spice. And actually I have one that is finished and will be out, and then the next one after that I haven't started writing yet. I have an idea of what it's going to be, and I talked with my editor about it, but it's not finalized, and I haven't done a whole lot of plotting. The basic premise is a woman, she flies into a bunch of different airports, and every time she flies into an airport, her goal is to pick up a stranger and have intimate encounters. And then until one day she meets a man, and it's not just enough for it to be one time. So then she goes back to the same place, which she normally doesn't do. And so I'm still trying to figure out all the reasons, like why would you be flying into different airports, and all of those pieces need to fit together. But that's what's next on my writing slate.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Megan, for talking to me and talking to our
Sure.
readers, and we will look for Collide.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.